Speedsters are some of the coolest characters in all of fiction. I mean, there's just something so awesome about seeing someone go super fast. But in that case, why do some Speedsters become so legendary that we remember them forever, while others are just forgettable and kinda boring? To find the answer to that question, I'm gonna take a bunch of completely different Speedsters and compare them. The first thing that every single Speedster needs is some kind of unique power. Here's the thing. Speedsters are literally everywhere. Like, there's pretty much some kind of character going super fast in every anime or manga. And if every Speedster just ran really fast with nothing to make them feel different from one another, then they would all become completely forgettable. And that's why there just needs to be something that makes them stand out. A fresh twist that makes you go, "Wow, this is the coolest thing ever!" I call it the secret sauce. To show you exactly what I mean, let's start with one of the coolest Speedsters in anime, Okarun from Dandadan. This little man can go up to 100 kilometers per hour. Yeah, just to compare that to something, that is approximately the speed of a freaking sprinting cheetah. So, yeah. But you know what else he can do? He can use his extreme speed to literally travel through telephone lines. And even stuff like spin his legs like a freaking helicopter to float in the air. And on top of that, his fighting style is a combination of these weird punches and literally just running into his enemies. The craziest thing is that he didn't get his super speed when he was bored or with some kind of super hardcore training. No. He got his super speed by being cursed by the spirit of a super old grandmother spirit called Turbo Granny. And that's why when he actually uses his super speed, he turns into this nonchalant white-haired beast. What makes this really cool is that he doesn't even really look like a speedster at all. Like, if I showed you this transformation, you'd probably never guess that his power was to run fast. So, Okarun is absolutely a valid speedster that has his own secret sauce. Okay, but what about speedsters that have the power of literal cinema on their side? Let me explain. These guys are Naoya and Naobito from Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay, so in JJK, every sorcerer has their own technique. And the technique of these two guys is to divide a single second into 24 parts. Kind of like these flip books that look like an animation. What happens is that they'll divide a second into 24 parts. They plan what they're going to do during each of these 24 parts, and they do it. Basically, it's kind of like they were putting themselves on fast forward in a movie. But here's the absolute insane part. They can also use this power on other people. So if someone isn't moving in the 24 frames rule, yeah, they just get frozen. I genuinely never hear people talking about these guys, which is insane because they're easily some of the most creative speedsters I've ever seen. So yeah, they absolutely have their secret sauce. Okay, but how about the most famous speedster in anime history? Zenitsu from Demon Slayer. The thing you need to know about this guy is that he only knows one move. He takes a sword and slashes super fast. That's it. And it looks amazing. Oh, and he can also only use it when he falls asleep. But here's the problem. Having a guy who moves at the speed of lighting and creates actual lighting is cool, but it's not super creative. And don't get me wrong, it's totally fine to do things in a more traditional classic way. But electricity is kind of the first thing that anyone would think of when they think of super speed. And you know, the lightning fast, quick draw swordsman is a thing that has been done so many times before as well. Listen, I genuinely love the idea of a character only having one move because it means that they might use it in a bunch of different creative ways. But unfortunately, that's not what happens with Zenitsu. And sure, the falling asleep part is a really cool twist, but it doesn't really do anything to the speed itself. It's not bringing anything new or very creative to speedsters. Let me tell you right now, I freaking love Demon Slayer, but I need to admit that Zenitsu is what you'd expect from a speedster without any kind of surprise. So is there a secret sauce here? Not really. But that actually brings me to my next point, which is that being unique isn't enough. The speedster's speed needs to feel awesome. The viewer needs to actually experience that speed. We need to feel the impact through stuff like cool visuals, sound design, and reactions from other people. Zenitsu's powers might not be original, but the feeling of speed we get, oof, Oof. When he unleashes his thunder-breathing technique, the entire atmosphere of the scene changes just to make you feel the extreme speed. All of it happens in an instant. The rocks around him start moving. The air is full of electricity. Every single time he uses his speed, it just looks amazing, and you can feel it in your bones. But I think that my absolute favorite example of that has to be Ida from My Hero Academia. This man literally has car engines in his legs, which might seem really stupid until you actually see him running. There's a scene where he needs to get his friend to a battlefield, which is basically on the other side of the city. So he activates all of his engines, puts his friend on his back, and the animators go crazy. He blasts off so violently that debris go flying everywhere. The buildings, the ground, everything around him starts breaking from the sheer force. His entire body bends as he reaches the speed of a literal fighter jet. All of these elements working together let you experience what's going on. You can feel the acceleration, and I genuinely think this is one of the best speed scenes in all of anime history, to be honest. But the truth is, anime speedsters weren't always like that. Older anime kinda used to struggle a little bit giving you these intense feeling of speed just because they had way less technology and way less budget than people do nowadays. Luckily, that doesn't mean you need an actual anime studio and a ton of technology to create a speedster. It's actually totally possible to make someone feel that sense of speed through manga panels. Like, check this out. People usually agree that Demon Slayer's anime looks way better than the manga, but Zenitsu's speed still looks kind of insane in the manga. In Dandadan, the panels show Okarun moving in these incredible blurs like he's some kind of speed ghost, and the artwork does such an amazing job of showing his acceleration in a way that looks super intense and just devastating. Even if you look at the manga version of these, older animes I just mentioned, the speed often feels incredible. The point I'm trying to make is that the medium doesn't matter. What matters is that feeling of speed. The next thing that absolutely every single speedster needs is some kind of limit to their speed. Listen, I know drawbacks and limitations might not seem like a good thing. I mean, why the heck would you want to prevent your speedster from using his speed, right? But trust me, these limits are exactly what makes these characters fun. Think about a car race. If all the cars are like, going against each other and they have to fuel at some point during the race, then whoever wants to win needs to think about it really strategically to beat the others. But if one of the cars can just do the entire race without ever stopping for fuel while the other cars have to stop for fuel, then the race is just gonna be so freaking boring because you already know who's going to win. And it's exactly the same with super speed. Speedsters are some of the most overpowered characters in all of fiction, and that's why they need limits. Okarun's body literally can't handle the power of Turbo Granny's speed. Like, my man can only go all out 2 times before his body completely stops working. So that means that he has to be really smart about it and make it count. Zenitsu can only use his speed when he's sleeping, which is really not convenient. I mean, most of the time he can only fight once he passes out because he's so scared. And the stronger version of his move can only be used a couple of times before he can't even move his legs. But I think that one of the best examples out there is my guy and Rock Lee from Naruto. These guys can use this amazing technique called the 8 gates. Basically, they have these points in their body called gates. If they open these points, it gives them absolutely incredible speed and strength. The drawbacks are pretty freaking brutal. Okay. The first gate lets you use the front lotus technique, but it causes muscle damage that you're definitely going to feel. The second gate increases your energy, but your muscles start tearing. The third gate turns your skin red and boosts your strength and speed, but you start getting way more serious muscle damage. The fourth gate makes you much faster and stronger, but you go through intense pain and your nose is probably going to start bleeding. The fifth gate increases your strength again, but now your bones are starting to break. The sixth gate lets you perform the morning peacock technique, where you punch so fast the friction between your fist and the air literally creates fire. And at this point, your muscles are not looking good. The seventh gate allows you to use the daytime tiger, where you punch so hard and fast that it creates a literal shockwave. But now, if someone even touches you, it's gonna feel very painful. And the eighth gate makes you so fast that you can bend space, time with nothing but your speed. But there's just a tiny problem. Your heart pumps so fast that your body cooks itself from the inside and turns to ash. So yeah, these drawbacks are brutal. But they're also what gives us legendary fights like Rock Lee versus Gaara or My Guy versus Madara. These moments hit super hard precisely because the drawbacks are super clear. Now my question is, what happens when you completely flip that and a speedster doesn't have any limitations. Well, in that case, you get someone like Jinwoo from Solo Leveling. Oh, wait a second. Oh, someone is telling me that Jinwoo is not a speedster? Okay, to be honest, Jinwoo has like 30 different abilities. Fighting skills, telekinesis, invisibility, summoning shadow soldiers, and probably way more that I'm just forgetting. But you cannot tell me that super speed isn't one of them. And the problem here is that he doesn't actually have any limitations with his speed at all. None. Like, there's this moment where he's fighting this extremely powerful final boss kind of enemy. An enemy who pretty much destroyed every single other character with his speed alone before that. And look at this battle. The other characters can't even see them because they're going so fast. But is there a single moment where Jinwoo looks even slightly tired? Absolutely not. Does he show any signs of fatigue from his fight? Absolutely not. Does he get a single injury from his fight? Absolutely not. In fact, this dude walks away from the fight looking exactly like he did when he started. There is nothing worse for a speedster than this kind of situation because there's just no tension and no risks for using their speed. Which kind of brings me to my next super important point. Speedsters just need to be consistent. Please. Listen, I kind of lied before. I know, I'm sorry. The truth is, a speedster can be weak. A speedster can be mid. A speedster can even be completely overpowered. It just doesn't matter as long as it makes sense. Super speed needs to have rules and limits and all of the stuff we talked about before, sure. But all of that only matters if the speedster sticks to it throughout the entire story. Otherwise, I'm gonna watch and feel like it makes no freaking sense. And I mean, most of the time anime actually does this really well. Speedsters like Okarun or Zenitsu start off kind of weak and then they slowly become stronger. This works really well because it'll make you feel super excited each time you see their speed abilities evolve. Each new level of speed feels like a genuine reward after facing a challenge, not just some random power-up that the author pulled out of nowhere. When you create rules and just follow them consistently, the audience knows exactly what to expect from your speedster. But that doesn't make it predictable. It actually means that every single time a speedster is going to use their abilities in a creative way, it's gonna feel super fun and just surprising. It's kind of like if you're 100% sure someone's just going to miss a shot in football. If they make it, that feels awesome. It feels insane. That's what consistency does, baby. It feels satisfying. It makes sense. And yeah, some characters do it way better than others, but it generally works. So what if I told you that for some super weird reason, a lot of movie speedsters are actually super inconsistent? Like, this is Quicksilver from the X-Men films. And there's this amazing, just awesome scene where he's moving so fast that for him, time is basically frozen. So my man is casually moving around a room full of people and just changing the direction of bullets midair. But then later in the same movie series, he somehow gets grabbed by a villain even though he has super speed. Sorry, but how? And in another scene, this girl was able to move the platforms he was running on, which should just not be possible because the dude can almost stop time. These kinds of inconsistencies feel horrible as a viewer. The characters start off extremely overpowered and just suddenly become super weak, and it just doesn't really make sense. But do you want to know a secret? A speedster can also have the complete opposite problem. Remember how I was talking about Jinwoo and how ridiculously overpowered he is? What if I told you that this insane speed we just saw is from approximately episode 20 of Solo Leveling, and this pathetic weakling is from episode 1. In the beginning of season 1, Jinwoo was literally the weakest fighter in the entire world. Like, I'm not even joking, he wasn't even a speedster at that point. I mean, my man could barely even run. But then he becomes this extremely overpowered speedster capable of moving insanely fast in just one season? One season? This is like the opposite of consistent. There's no gradual progression or whatever. It just feels like this massive jump from weakest person ever to a god-tier character. The problem isn't that he got stronger. That's normal. Characters are supposed to get stronger. That's awesome. The problem is that the growth happens so fast that it kind of feels unearned. And that brings me to my final point, the cherry on top of the speedster cake. A speedster's speed should be tied to something deeper. And I'm not talking about some boring stuff. Let me explain. Super speed is a really cool ability, but it doesn't need to be just a really cool ability. When it's actually connected to something like the character or the story, it elevates the speedster from just someone who runs fast to something way more interesting. Check out Killua from Hunter x Hunter, for example. He has this ability called Godspeed that basically allows him to go super fast. And you can see this kind of aura of electricity when he uses it. But here's the thing. This kid was born into a family of professional warriors and went through brutal training, including getting electrocuted all the time to build up his resistance to electricity. And that horrible childhood is exactly what made his super speed possible. It's because he survived all of this that Killua can now use lightning-based speed. My guy and Rock Lee's speed is also an amazing example. Neither of them can use the crazy abilities that most other characters in this series can use all the time. Their speed isn't something that came when they were born. It came with super difficult training. It's something they earned through hard work. And that's one of the biggest themes in Naruto. On the other hand, Zenitsu's speed looks absolutely incredible, sure, but it doesn't really have a big connection to his character development. And that's because most of the time when he's using his speed, he's literally sleeping. He's not even himself. His unconscious personality does all this crazy stuff while the real Zenitsu is still a coward who doesn't even remember what happened. This split personality thing means that his speed feels completely separate from his personal journey as a character. And sure, there's this one big moment in the series where you see him progress and change massively, but it happens very late. The rest of the time, he's just a cowardly goofball that needs to be knocked out to use his speed. He gets to be a speedster and a hero without actually being brave, which is kind of bad when you think about it. There's a massive difference between a speedster that people will remember forever and just a person that runs fast. People don't fall in love with speedsters because of their speed. They fall in love with them because they can show us something beautiful with their speed.